Hey guys, it's DSS here, and today we're going to be talking about why Battlefield's player count is increasing, and why Call of Duty's player count is decreasing. Obviously I think that Call of Duty is rubbish, and have done for a long time, but it's only since the release of Call of Duty Ghosts that many other people are starting to agree. Just a quick note on the gameplay, I'm playing TDM here, despite the fact that I actually despise playing TDM on Battlefield 4. The reason that I'm showing it to you is because A, it's actually quite an exciting gameplay, and B, because it's quite fitting with the topic. So our question of the day is, what should Battlefield do to not become Call of Duty by producing samey, rubbish shooters year on year? So I literally just said one there, samey. Call of Duty is exactly the same every single year, and on top of that, it is released every single year. The fact is, Activision are getting greedy and don't want to waste any money fixing something that isn't broken. It was only due to the release of Call of Duty Ghosts that everyone did actually realise that Call of Duty is broken and actually does need to be fixed. Obviously Activision would argue that they are changing things with their high definition dogs and their fish that can actually now swim. But both of these things should have been implemented years ago when Battlefield did it. And the fact that they're actually making a big deal of it makes me laugh. And if anyone thinks that a game becomes next gen when exploding garages and other scripted destruction is implemented, then they probably should be shot. It's almost like the devs are running out of ideas, despite the fact that I could sit here and list about 50 right now, and so unfortunately this game remains to be an old gen game. Another problem with Call of Duty at the moment is that they don't know who their audience are. They're trying to appeal to everyone, the good people, the bad people, the people who've never played first person shooters before, and most importantly, 5-year-old children. This leaves the good people getting annoyed as they keep getting killed by bad people using death streaks that were designed to kill the good people, and this leaves the bad people getting annoyed as they keep getting killed by the good people who are using KEM strikes. And then everyone in the game gets annoyed by the 5-year-old children who sit there singing in the lobbies. Overall, as you can probably tell, this is possibly the worst way to sell your game. Unfortunately, as I'm sure that some of you know, DICE are also starting to lose track of who their audience are. And this is proven by the recent addition of the Team Deathmatch and Domination game modes into Battlefield. Yes, if you haven't worked out by now, DICE are also trying to appeal to the Call of Duty players, who are getting bored of the Call of Duty franchise. Unfortunately, these game modes have been an absolute flop. The only reason that I would ever even bother playing TDM or Domination is if I was trying to level up a weapon or my own character. This is because with Warfare on a much smaller scale, you're bound to get a lot more kills on a match than you would have done in Conquest Large. Either way, we really need to try and prevent Battlefield from turning into Call of Duty in this respect. Another problem with Call of Duty is its absolutely terrible balancing. If you thought that Battlefield 4's weapon balancing was bad, you should definitely have a look at Call of Duty Ghosts. I would honestly love someone to sit there and complain about Battlefield 4's weapon balancing once they played this game. It's like complaining about caviar after eating jellied eels. Ugh. There are some guns in Call of Duty Ghosts that seem to kill in, well, they don't seem to kill, and there are other guns that seem to kill in like a quarter of a second. By this I'm talking about all of the SMGs versus the MSBS. I mean honestly, what reason do you have to pick an SMG over the MSBS? There is literally nothing. And I don't think that we actually appreciate how well the weapons are balanced in Battlefield 4, because in comparison, it's done really well. Another problem with Call of Duty is that they seem to throw things at us and let us decide whether they're good or bad changes to the game. One example of the devs mindlessly throwing something into the game is death streaks. What brainless turkey came up with the idea of death streaks? It really does confuse me that anyone in their right mind would think it's a good idea to reward someone for being bad, and we all know that being killed by someone using Dead Man's Hand is the worst feeling in the world. And despite the fact that death streaks have been taken out of the game for Call of Duty Ghosts, progression is not fixing something that went wrong in the last few games. It's more about adding in something that's actually had a little bit of thought behind it, like the mini Levolution events in Battlefield 4. Yet another reason why Call of Duty's player count is decreasing is because there are so many better games coming out like Titanfall, Battlefield, Killzone, PlanetSide 2 and GTA, all of which have had so much more time and effort put into them than Call of Duty has. On the glorious PC Master Race, Call of Duty is nearly dead, as people's eyes have already been opened to much better games, and it really is a shame that Call of Duty has stooped down so low considering that Call of Duty 4 shapes the face of modern day shooters. And I'm sure that we can all agree that the only reason that Call of Duty still has the amount of players that it does is because it's being carried by YouTube. The extra, unnecessary hype that's added by the YouTube Call of Duty community is the only reason that many people buy the game, only to be let down and then tell themselves that they will never buy the next game. but then they get carried away in the hype the following year, and then get let down again, and the cycle continues. I myself am also one of these people who get carried away in the hype, buying every single Call of Duty year on year out, despite the fact that I don't even play the bloody games. It's for this reason that I'm going to be selling my copy of Call of Duty Ghosts after a mere 22 hours game time, and I really do have no clue as to why I bought the game in the first place. But anyway, that's my little rant on Call of Duty Ghosts. But the question now is, what can Battlefield do to prevent themselves from turning into Call of Duty and have an ever decreasing number of players? As I mentioned earlier, Battlefield is already turning into Call of Duty, adding in game modes that don't really fit. Just to attract an audience, the Battlefield isn't really designed to entertain. We really need to try and make sure that Battlefield doesn't become an annual release, much like Call of Duty is currently. Because as of now, the games are designed to last at least 2 years before the next game comes out. And because of this, the games have to be produced at a much higher quality. Another benefit to this is that by halving the rate of production, the devs are also halving the rate at which they run out of ideas, meaning that the Battlefield series will be around for much longer than Call of Duty will ever be. The next thing that DICE needs to do to keep Battlefield as a very popular first-person shooter is get rid of EA. As most of you probably already know, EA were voted the worst company of 2013. It's EA's fault that many of you bought a game that you can't even play. They get too greedy and destroy titles and then blame the developers when things start to go wrong. I personally would love to see a much better, maybe less well-known publisher start to get involved with the Battlefield IP. Unfortunately, DICE are already trying to shove rubbish content into our faces to try and test out whether they're good or not, as shown by the return of the Air Superiority game mode. The game mode arrived as a part of the China Rising DLC pack for Battlefield 4, meaning that they obviously wanted to choose a game mode that sounded really cool, even if it wasn't. Although in the short term this will be really good for Battlefield 4's business, bearing in mind they'll be selling a few more copies of the DLC for the new game mode, but in the long term it definitely won't be very good, as people will learn not to expect anything good out of the new DLCs. What DICE really need to focus on is doing one thing really well. By this I mean creating the DLC packs to be brilliant at, for example, playing Conquest Large on, rather than making maps that are a jack of all trades and aren't very fun to play anything on. One thing I personally love DICE to do is to stop adding gimmicks into the game. I'm not sure if any of you have ever seen Matimio's Sunday Mailbox series, but it seems that since Call of Duty players have started arriving on the Battlefield scene, it seems like people think it's a good idea to give the support players an RCXD and other gimmicky things like this. I mean honestly, why the hell would it be a good idea to give support players an RCXD? The introduction of the UCAV and the Suave have already pushed spawn camping to an all-time high, and it scares me to think that in the future I could be sitting here getting killed by people using these no-risk items like the UCAV or Suave, or even an RCXD if they decide to introduce it. I mean honestly, I am fine with Call of Duty players moving over to the Battlefield franchise, but they really do have to learn that Battlefield is Battlefield and not Call of Duty, and there really is no place for things like this in this wonderful game. One thing that I would love to see in the Battlefield franchise is overall better class balancing. Personally, I would love to see the assault rifles to be moved into the support category, and consequently the light machine guns to be moved into the assault category. I feel this will be a much better way of balancing the assault class than lowering the usefulness of the defibrillators. The whole revive mechanic is one of the things that makes Battlefield as team orientated as it actually is, and I feel that lowering its usefulness does more harm than good, as it's starting to remove the team play aspect from Battlefield. I feel that giving the support class the assault rifles will not only make the support class more attractive, but also make the assault class better balanced without harming team play. Now that's all I can personally think up of, aside from the obvious bug fixes. But if you can think of anything, please leave it in the comment section down below, and I'll be happy to respond. This video has taken me forever to make, so a like would be greatly appreciated. Now this is a 20-minute long gameplay, so I'll probably cut it here. Please like and subscribe for more epic content, but for now, goodbye.